Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel, thank you. Today is explanation of Battle Through the Heavens episode number 88 based on novel. So let's start. The 10 figures immediately stiffened following the penetration of the fire chains. The chains also slowly became softer. Finally, they abruptly fell from the sky. The jade-green flame on them swiftly left and returned to Xiao Yan's body in front of everyone's eyes. Within a short couple of exchanges, the 10 spirit envoys, whose strength were at the Do Wang class, were killed by Xiao Yan's hands. This scene caused quite a number of people present to quietly swallow a mouthful of saliva. A combination of 10 expert Do Wangs would be able to fight a little even if they were facing an expert Do Huang. It was unexpected that they were so worthless in Xiao Yan's hands. The glow in Xiao Yan's eyes gradually soared after killing the 10 spirit envoys. The bone wings on his back were flapped and a wind lightning sound appeared. His body then appeared in front of Protector Xian in a ghost-like manner. Since you have come, there is no longer a need for you to leave. The people from the Hall of Souls all deserve to die. A savage arc was lifted on Xiao Yan's face as his palm abruptly struck out, and a jade-green flame spat out like a volcano. This swift attack by Xiao Yan also caused Protector Xian's expression to change drastically. His body swiftly withdrew, but with his seriously wounded condition, his strength was already far inferior to what it was before. Hence, a thread of flame caught up to him even though he had dodged quickly. The hot temperature caused him to emit a miserable screech. The black fog around Protector Xian's body was swiftly reduced while the flame burned. The flame had dispersed by the time Protector Xian had withdrawn by 100 meters. He was incomparably miserable at this moment. Protector Xian was panting as he stopped his body. The eyes he shot at Xiao Yan could no longer be described as vicious. Just when he was about to turn into a violent rage, a human figure suddenly appeared beside him. His gaze swept across it and he immediately cried out furiously, "Han Feng, join hands with me and kill this little." Protector Xian's words had yet to reach the end when he suddenly stiffened. He slowly lowered his head with much difficulty, only to see a hand that was wrapped in Do Chi penetrating his chest. The current you is merely trash even if you managed to survive. Coincidentally, those spirit envoys had all been killed off by Xiao Yan. No one will report to the Hall of Souls. Hence, you should give your soul to me. I will help you take revenge. Han Feng slowly withdrew his hand. He looked at the swiftly disappearing life force within Protector Xian's eyes. A cruel smile was lifted on his face as he muttered to himself. Han Feng was unaware of the thoughts within everyone's heart. At this moment, Protector Xian's spirit gradually became illusionary after having lost his body because of Han Feng's unexpected murderous act. Han Feng indifferently looked at this spirit that had become illusionary, and the corner of his mouth was lifted into a savage greedy smile. He widened his mouth and black fog agglomerated within his mouth. It immediately transformed into a strange black spiral. The suction force surged as he swallowed Protector Xian's spirit. Han Feng's body immediately trembled after Protector Xian's spirit entered his body. A wildly violent yet majestic aura swept from his body like a tornado. The surrounding air fled under the pressure of such an aura. A black fog that was so dense that it could almost cover one's mind surged out of Han Feng's body. While his aura surged, Han Feng's size also clearly expanded by 2 circles. There were even some bubbles that were formed by energy and began to revoltingly pulse on his skin. Clearly, Han Feng had obtained an extremely great spiritual strength after swallowing Protector Xian's spirit, but the power of this strength was something that he had difficulty controlling. It was due to this lack of control did these energy bubbles form. Han Feng never hesitated when he attacked and killed Protector Xian, nor did he hesitate when he swallowed of his spirit. His actions were extremely smooth and natural. Hence, by the time everyone recovered, they sensed the majestic aura that surged out of Han Feng's body. The strength of this aura was something that even the little fairy doctor was inferior to. According to her estimation, the strength of the current Han Feng should have already reached the peak of a 5-star Do zone. He was one level higher when compared to the little fairy doctor. Xiao Yan's brows knit as he sensed the spreading aura from Han Feng's body. This kind of disgusting scene of swallowing a soul was not something that he had seen for the first time. It seemed that most of the people from the Hall of Souls knew this skill, a skill that caused one to feel incomparably disgusted. Relying on swallowing the spirit of a companion to strengthen one's own strength might result in quite a severe sequelae in the future, but they would at least be able to obtain a temporary strength for a certain amount of time. I will deal with him. The grayish-purple eyes of the little fairy doctor stared at Han Feng. She felt his rising aura and softly spoke, "Together help me by some time." Xiao Yan gently exhaled as he replied in a deep voice, "Although there might be some difficulty defeating him in his current condition, I am absolutely confident that I can delay him." The little fairy doctor smiled sweetly and nodded. "Try your best not to undo the seal of the woeful poison body." Xiao Yan glanced at the moving smile on the little fairy doctor before sighing softly. The little fairy doctor was slightly startled as she softly replied, "I'll try my best. However, the opponent we face this time is not weak. It will be quite troublesome to deal with them if I don't undo the seal." Han Feng understood what Xiao Yan was planning to do after seeing the 3 heavenly flames around him. He immediately let out a cold snort. The snort was wrapped by powerful Do Qi and swiftly spread out. The air fluctuated slightly wherever it passed. A cold indifference flashed across the little fairy doctor's grayish-purple's eyes. She waved her delicate hand, and the surging grey-colored Do Qi lingering around her moved with a whistle, forming an enormous Do Qi light curtain appeared in front of her. The sonic wave continued on before finally colliding against the Do Qi light curtain with a bang, causing ripples to rise on the surface. The sonic wave suddenly smashed into the light curtain. However, it did not shatter the light curtain. This was merely a probing attack by Han Feng. He clenched his hand once again, and the black fog around him swiftly gathered, transforming into an enormous 100-foot-tall longsword. Sharp miserable screeches were repeatedly transmitted from the longsword. A faint spiritual finger emanated from all over the sword's body. "Go." Han Feng's gaze was filled with a stern killing intent. He flicked his finger, and a cold cry was transmitted from his mouth. The enormous fog longsword trembled before gradually turning illusionary. A solemnness flashed in the little fairy doctor's eyes as she watched the unusual longsword. She could clearly sense just what kind of frightening energy was contained in the black sword. Do Qi and spiritual strength mixed with one another. The strength that was formed from their mixture was far stronger than ordinary Do Qi. The little fairy doctor inhaled a deep breath. Her long hands suddenly formed seals. Immediately, waves of deep grayish Do Qi began to spurt from her body like a fountain, sky-corrosive rain. The Do Qi flew into the sky and swiftly agglomerated into a gray-colored cloud layer. Soon deep gray-colored rain scattered down from above in all directions. This gray-colored liquid body might appear to be without any energy, but a sharp-eyed person would be able to notice an extremely faint black scar appear in the air where the rain droplet fell. These rain droplets that contained a lethal poison did not land on the ground. When they had descended a certain distance, they would suddenly scatter before transforming into a poison gas that rose and re-entered the gray cloud. After which, they once again transformed into a raindrop and scattered down. This cycle repeated endlessly. It might have been difficult for me to defeat you in the past. Now, however, spiritual chant. A cold smile surfaced on Han Feng's face. His hand suddenly changed and an extremely powerful spiritual strength surged from between his brows, the black fog longsword trembled intensely while the spiritual strength flowed. Immediately, a strange sonic wave spread out from within it. The little fairy doctor's body trembled slightly as the sonic wave entered her ear. The waves of piercing pain that were transmitted from within her spirit caused her expression to change. This black fog longsword was able to attack one's spirit. An emptiness appeared within the little fairy doctor's grayish-purple eyes as her spirit was damaged. The black fog longsword grabbed this opening and transformed into black-colored lightning that broke through the rain's restriction. It carried a sharp force as it viciously shot toward the little fairy doctor's vital point, her throat. The sharp wind produced a tiny blood trace on the little fairy doctor's long snow-white neck. However, at this instant, the emptiness within the little fairy doctor's eyes suddenly disappeared. Her originally grayish-purple eyes were instantly transformed into different-colored eyes that were pure purple and pure gray respectively. At this moment, the seal of the woeful poison body was once again activated, Sky Sinister Poison Hand. A voice that was void of any emotion was softly spat out from the little fairy doctor's mouth. Immediately, a grayish-purple majestic dough chi surged out of her body. It instantly formed two enormous dough chi hands. These dough chi hands were extended and immediately grabbed the black fog longsword. The enormous black fog sword had difficulty penetrating further after facing such resistance. However, the sharp, dark, cold sword aura at its tip caused the little fairy doctor's skin to emit waves of piercing pain. After having swallowed Protector Xian's spirit, Han Feng's strength was greater than hers. It was naturally no longer as relaxing as it was in the past to block him. After all, each star level within the Do Zone class was an enormous gap. It was quite difficult to leap across it. Please visit frwn.o website to read fastest update. The grayish-purple Do Chi hands and the black fog longsword descended into a stalemate. A moment later, a cold glint flickered through the little fairy doctor's eyes. The seal on her hand suddenly changed and a soft cry was spat from her mouth. The cry had just sounded when the large Do Chi hands expanded. Immediately, one of them grabbed the tip of the sword while the other grabbed its hilt. The grayish-purple Do Chi, which was extremely corrosive, swiftly surrounded the sword. After which, the sword suddenly snapped, crack. A clear sound resounded over the sky. One could see that the enormous black fog longsword had been broken into two by the little fairy doctor. The Do Chi and spiritual strength contained within it was swiftly corroded by the grayish-purple Do Chi. Han Feng's body also shook when the black fog longsword was brutally destroyed by the little fairy doctor. His throat emitted a faint voice as he laughed in a dark manner. One really could not tell that a woman like you would possess such powerful tactics. However, despite having destroyed my spirit sword, it is likely that the spirit glow on it has given you a hard time, right? The little fairy doctor's face was cold and indifferent. She ignored Han Feng's words. Her delicate hands that were forming a seal trembled gently a couple of times. The unusual spirit sword glow had mostly ignored her Do Chi defenses, and had instead attacked her spirit. Had she not been an elite Do Zone, and had not possessed great spiritual strength, it was likely that she would have suffered a serious injury this time around. The little fairy doctor did not dare slight Han Feng's furious attack. The Do Chi within her body was circulated to its maximum speed. Undoing the seal of the woeful poison body had also caused the poison within her Do Chi to become even more potent. This poison was what Han Feng was most afraid of. Hence, he had not dared to attempt anything risky during these exchanges despite having gained the upper hand. Two blurry figures crossed each other in a lightning-like manner in the sky. An ordinary expert could not even see the figures of these two. Only those with sharp eyes could use the help of the ripples being created to lock onto the two figures. Su Qian and old Ying Shan faced each other from a distance not far below the battleground of the little fairy doctor and Han Feng. They did not use their full strength in their occasional exchanges, because old Yingshan already had a retreating notion within his heart. He knew that the so-called union today was most likely going to fail. Moreover, Xiao Yan's group clearly had a grudge that was difficult to resolve with Han Feng. All that he was after, on the other hand, was the bodhisattva body transformation saliva. He did not wish to participate in all the problematic matters between the others. Hence, he did not reveal any ability when fighting with Su Qian. Su Qian understood this point. In any case, his aim was to delay old Yingshan and prevent him from intervening in the battle above. Since old Yingshan was happy to delay time, Su Qian would naturally not object. If Han Feng were to know that the helper he had spent great effort to invite was playing such a trick at this critical time, it was likely that he would be so furious that his dou qi would not even be able to flow properly. The open ground was completely silent. At this moment, the experts invited by both sides did not fight, because they knew that the true battleground was above. They were only here for support and not actual use. Although the many experts present would be able to pose some threat to a dozong if they were to join hands, they were not foolish enough to do something that required them to risk their lives and offend an elite dozong for no reason. Today's matter was a grudge between Xiao Gate and the Demon Flame Valley, Xiao Yan and Han Feng. These experts did not wish to get involved with this matter. After all, if they were to stand on the wrong side, they would end up suffering in the future. Hence, remaining neutral at this moment and not helping either side was the most appropriate choice. Quite a number of people quietly wiped off some cold perspiration as they watched the shocking momentum of the battle in the sky. The fight between experts of the dozong class was indeed dazzling. This kind of majestic strength, where one could shake space with the raise of one's hand, was the level that a countless number of people pursued. The little fairy doctor's breathing slowly calmed. A cold smile gradually surfaced on her face. She could sense an unusually wild and violent, frighteningly hot energy agglomerating not far behind her. Shifting her eyes slightly, she could see that Xiao Yang was flapping his bone wings to remain suspended in the air not far behind her. A three-colored fire lotus slowly rotated above his palm. The space surrounding it formed threads of spatial cracks, as this little thing rotated. Xiao Yang nodded to the little fairy doctor, after seeing her catching her eyes. His mouth gently moved. The little fairy doctor's eyes blinked as she absorbed the sound transmitted from Xiao Yang to her ear. She immediately nodded without anyone noticing. Damn it. Han Feng had also sensed when the fire lotus in Xiao Yang's hand was formed. His expression instantly became much uglier, as his heart violently cursed. Cursing was one thing, but Han Feng's actions were not the least bit slow. He clearly understood just how frightening this fire lotus, merged from three kinds of heavenly flames, was. He did not dare to slight it. Dark black fog surged out of his body in all directions. In merely a short moment, it formed a black cloud that covered the sky. The thick, black fog emitted a chillness that caused one to feel extremely pressured. The black fog covered the sky. It emitted a tidal wave-like cold feeling. Waves swept continuously, as though there was no end to it. This black fog sea was formed from all of the dou qi within Han Feng's body, and possessed an extraordinary might. A cold smile flowed over Xiao Yang's face, as he watched the black fog that covered the sky. He gently waved his sleeves and the three-color fire lotus left his palm. With a flick of his finger, it swiftly shot toward the black fog. The little fairy doctor's eyes stared intently at the fire lotus that shot over. She suddenly bit the tip of her tongue when it passed by her head. A mouthful of fresh blood, that contained a hint of purple, was spat out before it adhered to a part of the fire lotus. Hurry and withdraw. Xiao Li's heart was shocked when he saw the fire lotus in Xiao Yang's hand fly out. He immediately pulled at Zi Yang beside him and hurriedly withdrew. He knew just how terrifying the strength of the fire lotus was. Sumai and the others were startled upon hearing Xiao Li's cry. They did not hesitate, as all of them hurriedly withdrew out of the valley like rabbits. Some of the experts and faction leaders in the open ground also followed. However, some of the more cautious people hesitated and refused to follow, afraid they might fall for a trap. At this moment, the Demon Flame Valley was in complete chaos. The enormous rocks that rolled down from the wall caused the people from the Demon Flame Valley, who did not have time to prepare themselves, to suffer great losses. It was still all right for some agile experts. They were still able to dodge this great calamity with their speed. However, those who were slow were buried in an enormous rock ruin. The experts in the open ground, who were late to leave, only managed to flee from the valley after some graceful dodging. Due to the frightening wave from the enormous fire in the sky, no one dared to fly. They were afraid of being struck by the wave. Their ending would likely be quite miserable if that happened. Only after everyone fled the Demon Flame Valley in a miserable manner did they stop running, but they had all been shaken up pretty badly. They stood on a slope and looked at the many mountain peaks around them that had suddenly become empty. All of them involuntarily inhaled a cool breath. The forest of this mountain range had been destroyed by Xiao Yan's fire lotus. Everyone stood outside of the valley in a hushed manner. The atmosphere was very quiet. There was a look of sedation within the eyes of quite a number of people. It was likely that even an ordinary elite dozong would have difficulty creating such frightening destruction. It was unexpected that it all came from Xiao Yan's hands. Only at this moment did the doubt regarding the rumor of Xiao Yan being able to contend with an elite dozong quietly disappear. Within the crowd, Sumai, Wu Tai, Old Ying Jiyu, and the other helpers that Xiao Li had summoned exchanged looks with each other. They could see a shock that was difficult to hide in the eyes of the other party. This was not the first time that they had seen Xiao Yang's Fire Lotus Do technique. When they had followed him to the Jioma Empire back then, Xiao Yang had displayed it once against the Misty Cloud sect. However, the strength then was much weaker compared now. Clearly, the might of this Fire Lotus Do technique had grown extremely quickly following the increase of Xiao Yang's level. The might of this skill is this frightening with a mere 6-star Do Huang strength. When he reaches the Do Zone class, it is likely that it will be difficult for him to find an opponent within the Do Zone class. The growth potential of this person is really too frightening. One should not be enemies with him. This thought appeared and remained in the hearts of Sumai's group at this moment. They had a type of friendship with Xiao Yang, and they also knew a little about him. This young person had made quite a number of enemies during these years. Although many of these opponents were way stronger than him, he was still able to persist until the end. Moreover, the only person who grew stronger during the battle was him alone. At that time, many people might have ridiculed the ignorance of trying to do the impossible. However, a couple of years later, when a young figure stood at the Misty Cloud Mountain and used a calm voice to determine the fate of the Misty Cloud sect, finally someone recalled the scene from back then. On top of letting out a shock of exclamation, they had to learn how to exhale and inhale again. It was indeed the case of not bullying a young man for being poor. Not bullying a young man for being poor, meaning that a young person has limitless potential even if he is currently in a bad state. Time was just like water, and the tender youth had transformed into a mature, young man within a couple of years. These years, he had left behind memories as well as a reputation everywhere he had walked. At this moment, those people who were acquainted with him would involuntarily feel stunned when recalling this scene. Who would have expected a couple of years ago that this young man, who was looked down upon and discriminated within the clan, would be able to create such a reputation? Father, your eyesight is really very good. Third brother might well become the most outstanding person in our clan's history. He might even be able to surpass the so-called Xiao clan's ancestors, who might not exist that you mentioned back then. Xiao Li's thoughts slowly calmed down as he raised his head, looked at the skinny back in the sky and muttered softly. The black fog scattered and drifted in the sky. After the frightening eruption of the fire lotus, the originally enormous black fog region had been completely destroyed. The permeating black fog was scattering at a rate visible to the naked eye. Xiao Yan's eyes were ice-cold as he watched the swiftly scattering black fog. He took out a couple of medicinal pills from his ring and stuffed them into his mouth. Immediately, a faint redness surfaced on his pale white face. Using the three-colored fire lotus exhausted a ton of do qi. However, it was fortunate that Xiao Yan's strength was already mighty. Hence, the sequelae of gradually descending into unconsciousness the moment the fire lotus left his hand did not happen anymore. The little fairy doctor stood facing the wind beside Xiao Yan. The demonic charm, contained in her grayish-purple eyes, firmly stared at a certain spot in the black fog. A dense poison fog quietly churned on her hand as she prepared to attack. The black fog gradually scattered under the watchful eyes of the two people, revealing an extremely miserable figure within. Even Han Feng, who was once regarded as the Pill Emperor of the Black Corner region, had declined during such a long battle. Today, he might even completely perish in this place. Although everyone knew that Han Feng was an elite dozong, their hearts gradually leaned in favor of Xiao Yan after experiencing the terror of the fire lotus firsthand. This fellow's fire lotus is really stronger, the young man back then had endured ridicule, as he carried humiliation and the reputation of being a useless person. With his dedication and stubbornness, the young man left his home by himself and roamed the empire. Xiao Li remembered a distant memory of sudden understanding. He finally understood why his father placed hope in his third brother, who everyone had treated as a joke, when he saw the young man carrying an enormous heavy ruler at the edge of the desert, enduring his lonely training. Time flowed by, and the young man had gradually lost his sentimentalism during his training. He appeared to have undergone a transformation. He and his ruler fought with a mighty being, the Misty Cloud sect, in front of a countless number of stunned gazes in the Jioma Empire. Xiao Yang was naturally unaware that Mo Tianxing's words had dissuaded old Ying Shan of continuing to pester him. At this moment, the killing intent within his dark black eyes immediately surged upon seeing Han Feng revealing himself. However, before he could act, the little fairy doctor by his side rushed forward in a lightning-like manner. Within an instant, she appeared in front of Han Feng. Her eyebrows contained an evilness as a cold and indifferent cry was suddenly emitted from her small mouth, blood corrosion. Han Feng's body stiffened when the cry sounded. Immediately, a strange blood-red color surfaced on his body, turning him into something like a blood person. You used poison. The boiling feeling that was emitted from the blood within his body caused Han Feng's face to instantly turn pale. His eyes viciously glared at the little fairy doctor as he hissed. The little fairy doctor's gaze coldly glanced at Han Feng. She extended her finger and immediately pressed it heavily on the latter's head. A strange snort was emitted from her mouth, bang. Han Feng's eyes suddenly widened as this sound landed in his ears. His eyes appeared to be about to pop out. Then, he heard a muffled sound as his skin burst apart. Fresh blood transformed into a blood fog that scattered into the sky. The sudden blood fireworks caused everyone to feel stunned. They immediately saw Han Feng's broken body fall head first from the sky. Finally, it landed heavily on a rock. A snap sound appeared and even his bones split apart at this moment. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.